Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Glad to see him, the Alfred University political science professor emeritus.
Yes, well, thanks for having me in, Brian. I'll stay a while. We can chat.
Well, two debates this week, one Tuesday night, one Wednesday night, the Democrat debates. You saw both.
Off and on, yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think the thing that really strikes me about the debates is that there's a lot of hypocrisy involved here. Now, I know that may be surprising to our listening audience, but you have some of these candidates completely switching their positions, getting out there and sounding really virtuous and moral about things that a few years ago they didn't support at all. And so it's, I guess, does tend to give politics kind of a bad name. But carrying this a little farther, what struck me was that quite a number of these candidates are basically playing to some sort of constituency out. In other words, they're trying to develop some kind of constituency, the African American vote, the suburban women's vote, the gun owner, not too many gun owners there, the people concerned about gun violence. They're basically projecting positions that they think will find favorable reception somewhere out there in the electorate, especially the Democrat electorate, to give them enough support in the polls and money to continue. And the problem is there's nothing really very authentic then about what they're saying, and people pick up on that. And I think one of the reasons Trump was so successful is that whether you like what he was saying or not, he was saying what he thought, and he really laid it in there. And you just don't see that among these candidates, and a lot of Republican candidates as well. But outside of Biden, who basically is pretty much saying, I think, what he believes, although he switched positions on a number of the things that he supported years ago. But, of course, he's got a long record there, and has to kind of defend what he did all here and there.
They were trying to make him look more conservative than he is now. Would you say that?
Well, they're trying, yes. I'm not certain. I think he's pretty conservative to start with. But he's trying to basically, I think, move a little more to the left to center to make him more palatable to some of the so-called progressive electorate. But my view would be that Biden's going to come out of these. He's going into these debates, what he carried about a 20% lead, maybe a little larger. He'll be at that or maybe more as a result. And because he's, frankly, the only one that kind of just stands there and watches the shrapnel go by. Now, it is true that in Wednesday night's debate, toward the end, Biden apparently began to make faux pas in terms of names and other things.
Forgot his website.
Yeah, so he's beginning to tire, and that's the sort of thing he's going to have to put up with, because they bring that up very quickly. That what kind of stamina does he have? And I just find it hard to believe the guy is going to be able to remain a vigorous campaigner for another year and a half. And you see already he's backing out of campaign appearances and things of that sort. He's basically trying to conserve his strength. But that's a real problem he carries, and you can't make him younger. Although Bernie Sanders is 77 or so as well, and appears to be quite a bit more active. So there's a whole range of choices and options there. And Kamala Harris, I must say, she's taken a lot of heat on the fact that she changes her positions pretty much willy-nilly. And nobody,
that Tulsi Gabbard there was pointing out.
Well, that
a
was
lot.
really a deadly blow that she hit her with in terms of what she'd done to people as Attorney General of California. And the one that really stuck out was her claim that she refused to shorten prisoners' sentences because they were using the prisoners as prison labor and saving the state money. I don't know if that's true or not, but the prison guard union in California is a very potent political force, and I can see where Kamala Harris might well have been letting these sentences run longer, basically to provide more jobs to prison guards. So it's, but it was pretty devastating, and Harris didn't have any response. And again, you kind of wonder what kind of staff assistance is she getting? Can't she anticipate some of these kinds of attacks? Or
yes. Different people have mentioned that. For example,
yes?
Senator Harris, I'm having one of those Joe Biden moments. Senator Harris goes on a radio show and jokes about how she used to smoke marijuana, and Tulsi Gabbard was there to say, hey, you gave some pretty stiff sentences for some of these marijuana accusation suspects, and
right.
then you go around and joke around the radio
right.
about marijuana use on your own.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be another deadly moment.
Well, I think she hit her pretty hard, and those sorts of things begin to accumulate as the campaign goes on. Now, whether Gabbard will remain on the debate trail there or not remains to be seen. Although Reince Priebus, and after who is the former Republican national chairman and was very key in Trump's election, made the point, and I think it's a point we've been making here as well, and that is that the Democrat National Committee, headquarters, whatever, is pretty much losing control of their Democrats in the election. So that his point was that, sure, the CNN can narrow the number of candidates speaking in these debate situations, but they got no control over, and I don't know, maybe the Democrat National Committee has some control there too, but they have no control over these other 14 or 15 candidates who are free to go out and set up their own debates or begin to form third-party efforts of one sort or another, which I think I've mentioned before, I think is a real threat with this kind of ideological diversity on the Democrat side. So, I mean, some of these guys are way, way out there, and they're not going to be happy with whomever is chosen.
Will Michelle Obama jump in, as some are predicting?
Yeah, well, some people are pushing that, yes. And I think she would be a formidable candidate. I don't think she would win, but she would attract certain segments of the population there, I think, pretty quickly. On the other hand, she just doesn't have the the demeanor that her husband has, who is a lot more controlled, a lot more low-key, and frankly, I think a lot smarter than Michelle is. But nonetheless, she can be a charismatic sort of person and would have some appeal. The real question is whether she would want to put up with that. Again, I'm standing by my prediction that Mr. Cuomo will be stepping in here, and there's plenty of time, 6 months, 8 months. You could even wait till the convention and go in again as a favorite son candidate, kind of just swat de Blasio and Gillibrand out of the way. You just kind of wonder what these people are in there for, and a lot of people are asking that question. On the other hand, they do raise some money, and if they drop out of the campaign, they've got all kinds of things they can do with that money. They can't use it for their personal use, but for example, Pat Buchanan, when he lost the nomination, who was it, to George Bush? Yeah, H.W., I believe, had something like, maybe he ran again later, I'm not sure. But I think he had something like $13 million that he'd accumulated campaign funds. So he set up a foundation which helped to subsidize his books that he published. He appointed his sister, head of the foundation at a nice fat salary. And so, and it was all perfectly legal.
The Wednesday night Democrat debate, were you surprised at all the slams against Barack Obama?
Well, I think that's an interesting point. One of the reasons they're going after Barack Obama, of course, is that Biden is his vice president. And they're trying to bring Biden down by hitting at Obama. Again, I don't think that's going to do him much good. They're only confirming some of the things that Trump has said. Somebody was trying to make the point that they're really afraid to go after Trump. I don't know if that's true or not. It might be. I mean, you can see where some of these people take a shot at Trump, and within a short period they start getting some nasty tweets back. I suppose that might slow you up a little bit. I'm not sure. But no, I think the basic issue there was trying to make Biden either defend Obama or separate himself from Obama. And either one of those situations for Biden is not a really pleasant thing or a thing that he wants to do, frankly.
Why would he not want to defend Obama?
I don't know. It seems to me it would make good sense.
I would think he would want to.
Yes, I understand that. And but the point that a number of people make, and I think Trump has made as well, is that with Clinton and Obama, you've got 16 years of Democrat administrations and Democrats who continually going on and on about how they're going to help the poor, how they're going to move toward more equality in the economy, things of that sort, and frankly did almost nothing at all. Now you can give Obama credit for the health care effort there he made, whether you like it or not. He at least got it on the agenda and got it passed. But the point is they really haven't done that much, and Trump in, 2.5 years has the effect on the economy. We've got the longest growth span or scope that we've ever had in our history. You've got some of these minority groups with the lowest unemployment rate they've ever had. So Trump can, say, this is how you do it. The problem is, and this ties in, I think, to Mr. Trump's attacks on Congressman Cummings in Baltimore. These people, like Cummings, do not want independent working people in their districts. They want them dependent on the largesse the government provides to those people. And we've seen this happen several times. Johnson's War on Poverty tried to go into some of these districts and provide various kinds of work incentives. The congressmen in those districts, they didn't want to see that. And when Jack Kemp was on the Bush administration, I think he was HUD secretary for a while there, he was pushing these enterprise zones in the inner cities where the government would help companies move in and set up factories and would get aid if they hired local people and gave them jobs. Well, the Democrats weren't interested in doing that. They didn't want independently working people in their districts. And I know it makes a lot of Democrats mad to hear this, but the facts are pretty clear. So in these a lot of these inner city districts, the congressmen don't want any kind of separate political constituencies. And one of the key ways to keep things under control, frankly, is to pour as much government aid in there as you can. So that's where Trump just tears all this to pieces. By providing an economy that's really booming, people are getting jobs and are working away like little beavers out there. Yes,
indeed. It always amazes me that Trump's economic news is good. The Labor Department apparently is not filled with the kind of people who are working a lot of other jobs in Washington who cannot stand Trump and would do anything to get him out of there.
Yeah, well, I think that's absolutely true. And we mentioned before, if you really want to drain the swamp, you move some of these agencies out of Washington, D.C. And you may notice in the Agriculture Department, Trump was moving at least 2 sections of the Agriculture Department into other areas of the country. Now, I don't know whether that's the start of a trend. I hope it is. But, boy, they're not happy, as you can imagine. And you can't blame them in a way. I mean, they got their homes, their kids. And
kids are going to certain schools.
Yeah.
They're living in the richest part of the country.
Yeah, highest per capita zip codes. I think half the highest per capita zip codes are right around Washington, D.C. But nonetheless, if you want to get something done and get the government back under control and much more responsive to what there's the country as a whole, you've got to be kind of nasty, and President Trump can certainly be kind of nasty.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go over my head and talk about the Federal Reserve with Dr. Bob.
Oh.
Did you know that the IRS is getting more aggressive these days? They're using private agencies to track you down. Don't wait. If you owe more than $10,000, take advantage of the Fresh Start Initiative, a program in place that can help you now. You can save thousands and possibly have your taxes forgiven. There's help for those of you who owe $10,000 or more, but it's important that you take action before these programs change. Call the tax experts at Oxford Tax Partners for a free consultation now at 800-575-1919. That's 800-575-1919.
There's nothing like meeting face-to-face, and there's nothing like Zoom to make that happen. Zoom lets you connect and do business across town or around the world. Zoom ties together all of your communication needs into one easy platform for video conferencing, phone calls, group chat, webinars, and your conference rooms. Connect easily from anywhere, your mobile phone, your laptop, or conference room. Zoom is how business gets done. Get your free account at Zoom.com today.
Back with Dr. Robert A. Heineman. Headline, Federal Reserve cuts rate by 1/4 point. And President Trump was not too pleased. Can you explain all this and break it down for us mathematically challenged types?
Well, the Federal Reserve has 2 tools. Well, they got some other tools too now, but one of them is what's called the discount rate, which is the rate at which banks can borrow from the Federal Reserve. The other is the federal funds rate, which is the rate the banks charge each other. Now, they got to be pretty close to each other in terms of the percentages. And frankly, you got me a little off balance there, Brian. I'm not quite certain what the discount rate is right now. It's somewhere around 2% or so, I think. Maybe a little higher than that, but not much. And the whole idea here is, the lower you make the discount rate and the federal funds rate, the easier it is to borrow money, the more incentive that is for companies to expand, create jobs, things of that sort. And so the Federal Reserve lowered the rate just a little bit because I guess, I don't know, obviously Trump has been giving him a lot of pressure. Whether they're paying any attention to that or not, I don't know. But they may feel that a need to keep the economy continuing on its boom path. Now, again, the discount rate in Federal Reserve, the federal funds rate, you can do that within a few hours. But the effect on the economy, I think, is a lot less than these huge deficits that the federal government is piling up in terms of what we call fiscal policy, which is taxes and spending. And the bigger the deficit, the more inflationary it is, because you're pouring more money into the economy than you're taking out in taxes. And so people are getting all worked up about that. I frankly don't get particularly worked up about that, and I'm not certain anybody else much does either. But right now we're running some pretty hefty deficits, and that's got to be keeping the economy rolling along too. So we'll see how this works out. And I certainly don't have anything against the Federal Reserve lowering the federal funds rate and the discount rate, frankly. But I think the market dropped there when they did it, because they also said they probably weren't going to do this for the rest of the year again. Now, whether they will or not, we'll just have to see. But I'll tell you this: the central bank manipulations are really quite interesting, and as you were suggesting, Brian, a little beyond yours and anybody else's calculations. This is how Soros made his millions and millions of dollars. He shorted the the British pound, and when the British central bank had to change the support for the pound, he made a huge amount of money off of it.
He's done a few things to a few countries, hasn't he, George Soros?
Well, he's doing enough to this country, that's for sure.
I was reading on the Hill.com, President Trump threatened Thursday to impose new tariffs on virtually all remaining Chinese imports starting next month. Dr. Bob, what do you make of that and the whole trade war situation?
I get the impression that the United States and the Chinese are, in fact, talking to each other at a kind of quiet, lower level. But I think another thing you got to watch here is the Chinese are gathering troops along the Hong Kong border. And they're not doing that just to give them military practice there. It's quite possible they'll move troops into Hong Kong to shut down those riots. And the question is, what would we do in that situation? Now, obviously, we're not going to go in there to provide support for Hong Kong, but in terms of embarrassing the Chinese and making them look bad, we could certainly do that. And so it may be that we're working a little leverage there of some sort or another in terms of what the Chinese may do in Hong Kong. And that could be pretty unpleasant, but on the other hand, we don't have a dog in that fight.
Yeah. We've been talking to Dr. Robert A. Heineman, political science professor emeritus. Dr. Bob, was there anything I did not bring up that you want to cover?
Lots of things you didn't bring up, Brian, but I think we can let them simmer for a while.
We'll let that go till next week.
Let's give that a try, yes.